Hey there, I'm Tim Davis, developer advocate at Harness, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to spin up an instance of Harness open source and to develop an application utilizing Gitspaces. These days, developers are supporting multiple projects at once, and each of these projects can sometimes have its own set of frameworks, dev tools, and even credentials for cloud resources. Reconfiguring the IDE each and every time you have to context switch can sometimes be a pain. And that's really where Gitspaces comes in. Now, Harness Open Source will let you configure hosted development environments, also manage code repositories, build, test, deploy, and manage artifacts, all from within Harness Open Source. Now, the first thing we need to do to spin this up is we're going to go ahead and utilize this Docker command that is inside of the Harness Open Source documentation. But what I want to show you is localhost is currently not running. So let's go ahead and spin that instance up. We will double check it in Docker. Looks like we're running. And then we're going to go ahead and refresh and get it to load. If you've never utilized Harness Open Source before, it's going to ask you to sign up. Of course, it is free, so you can utilize all of this however you would like, whether you're spinning it up on your local machine or if you're spinning it up in a cloud machine. Get signed up, get logged in. The first thing we're going to do is create a new project. Harness.js web, and we're going to create the project here. The repository that we're going to be using is a JavaScript application here, and one thing that I do want to point out is that we have an extra folder in here for dev container, and it's utilizing a dev container.json spec file. This is an industry standard spec file utilized to make dev containers, and that is the exact spec that we're using to spin up these Gitspaces. So we're not doing anything proprietary here. Now that we've gone ahead and spun up Harness Open Source, I'm going to import a repository here. Organization is going to be vtimd, that's me, and then we're going to do Harness.js web, and we're going to go ahead and import this repository into the Harness Open Source code repository. Cool. We've got that, and everything here looks great. The next thing we want to do is actually develop in the application. So we'll go ahead and use Gitspaces here. We're going to get started. Now we can utilize repositories inside of Harness Open Source natively, or we can utilize any other, for the most part, public Git repository with the URL and then just select which branch you want. Since we imported it, I'm going to go ahead and select JS Web here. Now we do support VS Code Desktop or VS Code Browser. Just to show you how quick and easy it is, I'm going to go ahead and spin up VS Code Browser here, and we're going to create the Gitspace. All right, now that we've got our Gitspace spun up, we can double check and see that, hey, we have another container here that's running our Gitspace. We're going to go ahead and open up VS Code Online. If you selected VS Code Desktop, then it's going to go ahead and launch that. I just wanted to show you how easy it was to get started with this. We have a full-fledged VS Code right here inside of our desktop that is running in a container on our local machine spun up as a Gitspace utilizing Harness Open Source. Now, if we come through here, we're going to close that out. Let's take a look at our app. We'll do npm run dev. Gives us a nice little pop-up here, and we'll automatically check the app. It's the Canary Show. We absolutely love our Canary here at Harness, but it is a special day, so let's go ahead and change this to the Gitspace Show. And let's go back here and check it. Look at that. We have the Gitspace Show. Now you can see how easy it was for me to spin up an entire instance of Harness Open Source utilizing Docker on my local machine. I was then able to quickly import the repository from GitHub into Harness Open Source code repository, and then spin up a Gitspace with a fully configured development environment using that dev container.json spec and go through and make our development changes. So if you have questions or you want to check us out, feel free to check us out at harness.io. And if you do have those questions, be sure to join us in the Harness community Slack.